Picture this, a quiet street corner in a small town where a scruffy, golden-haired dog sits patiently every day. His eyes are fixed on the horizon, his tail giving the occasional hopeful wag. Rain or shine, he's there waiting. For what? For whom? No one knows. But his loyalty is undeniable, his presence a mystery that captures the hearts of everyone who passes by. This is the story of Max, a dog whose love and loyalty became the talk of the town. Did you know that dogs have an incredible ability to form deep emotional bonds with humans, often staying loyal long after they're gone? Max's story is a testament to that bond, a tale so moving it brought an entire community together. What would you do if you saw a dog waiting alone day after day? Would you stop and wonder about his story? Today, we're sharing a tale that will remind you why dogs are called man's best friend, and why their loyalty can teach us some of life's most important lessons. But what happened next will leave you in awe. Chapter 1. The Dog on the Corner. It all started on a quiet street in the heart of a small town. Max, a scruffy golden retriever mix, had become a familiar sight to the locals. Every morning, like clockwork, he'd appear on the corner of Maple and Elm, sitting patiently by the bus stop. His fur was a little matted, his paws a little muddy, but his eyes, those deep, soulful eyes, were full of hope. At first, people assumed he belonged to someone nearby. Maybe he was waiting for his owner to return from work or school. But as days turned into weeks, it became clear that Max was alone. He never wandered far from the corner, and he never seemed to go home. The townsfolk began to take notice. Some brought him food, a sandwich from the deli, a bowl of water from the cafe across the street. Others tried to coax him into their cars, hoping to take him to a shelter or find him a new home. But Max wouldn't budge. He'd accept the kindness with a grateful wag of his tail, but he always stayed put, his gaze fixed on the horizon. "He's waiting for someone," Mrs. Henderson, the owner of the local bakery, would say. You can see it in his eyes. But who? And why? No one knew. Max's story became a quiet mystery, a puzzle no one could solve. Yet, his unwavering presence began to weave itself into the fabric of the town. He wasn't just a dog on the corner anymore. He was a symbol of loyalty, a reminder of the power of love. Chapter 2. The mystery deepens as the weeks turned into months. Max's routine became a part of the town's rhythm. The children on their way to school would wave at him, calling out, "Hi, Max." The elderly couple who walked their poodle every morning would stop to give him a pat on the head. Even the bus drivers began to look for him, honking their horns in greeting as they passed by. But despite the attention, Max remained focused. He'd sit there, his ears perked up at the sound of every approaching vehicle, his tail giving a hopeful wag whenever someone stepped off the bus. And then, when the bus drove away and the street grew quiet again, he'd let out a soft sigh and settle back into his spot. One day, a local reporter named Claire decided to investigate Max's story. She had seen him countless times on her way to work, and his quiet determination had sparked her curiosity. She began asking around, talking to shop owners, neighbors, and anyone who might know something about the dog on the corner. "He's been here for months," said Mr. Thompson, who ran the hardware store. "I've tried to take him home a few times, but he won't leave. It's like he's waiting for someone." Claire's investigation led her to an elderly woman named Edith, who lived in a small house just a block away from the bus stop. Edith had been watching Max from her window for weeks, her heart breaking a little more each day. "I think I know who he's waiting for," Edith said softly. "But it's not my story to tell." Claire's curiosity was piqued. Who was Max waiting for? And why had they left him behind? Chapter 3. The story behind the wait. Edith invited Claire into her cozy living room, where the scent of freshly baked cookies filled the air. As they sat by the window, Edith began to share what she knew about Max. His owner was a young man named Jake, Edith explained. He lived in the apartment above the hardware store. Jake and Max were inseparable. You'd always see them together, walking around town or sitting at the park. Jake worked odd jobs, but no matter how busy he was, he always made time for Max. Claire listened intently, her notebook in hand. "What happened to Jake?" she asked. Edith's eyes grew misty. One day, Jake didn't come home. I heard he got into some trouble and had to leave town suddenly. He couldn't take Max with him, so he left him with a neighbor. But Max, he must have thought Jake would come back. He's been waiting ever since. Claire felt a lump in her throat. She looked out the window at Max, still sitting faithfully on the corner. His loyalty was heartbreaking and beautiful all at once. "Do you think Jake will ever come back?" Claire asked. Edith shook her head slowly. "I don't know, but Max hasn't given up hope. And neither have I." Claire knew she had to share Max's story with the world. She wrote an article for the local paper, detailing his unwavering loyalty and the mystery of his wait. The response was overwhelming. People from all over town began stopping by the corner to see Max, bringing him treats and offering to help in any way they could. But Max remained steadfast. He wasn't waiting for food or attention, he was waiting for Jake. Chapter 4. A community united. Max's story spread like wildfire. Claire's article was shared online, reaching people far beyond the small town. Donations poured in for Max's care, and offers to adopt him came from all over the country. But Max wasn't interested in a new home. His heart belonged to Jake, and everyone could see it. The townsfolk rallied around Max, determined to help him in any way they could. Mrs. Henderson started a fundraiser to build a small shelter for him at the bus stop, complete with a cozy bed and a roof to protect him from the rain. The local vet offered free checkups, and a group of volunteers took turns bringing him fresh food and water every day. But the most remarkable thing was how Max's story brought the community together. Strangers became friends as they bonded over their shared concern for the loyal dog. Children drew pictures of Max and left them by a shelter. Elderly residents sat with him, sharing stories of their own beloved pets. Max had become more than just a dog. He was a symbol of hope, love, and the power of community. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Claire sat beside Max on the corner. She gently stroked his fur, her heart heavy with emotion. "You're not alone, Max," she whispered. "We're all here for you." Max looked up at her, his eyes filled with a quiet understanding. For a moment, it felt like he was saying thank you. Chapter 5. The moment that changed everything. Months had passed since Max's story first captured the town's heart. The seasons changed, but Max's routine never did. He was still there every day, waiting on the corner of Maple and Elm. The community had grown used to his presence, but they never stopped hoping for a miracle. Then, one ordinary afternoon, something extraordinary happened. A bus pulled up to the stop, its brakes hissing as it came to a halt. Max's ears perked up, his tail giving a tentative wag. He stood, his eyes fixed on the door as passengers began to step off. And then, there he was. Jake. He looked different, older, a little worn, but there was no mistaking him. Max froze for a moment, as if he couldn't believe his eyes. Then, with a burst of energy, he bounded toward Jake, his tail wagging furiously. Jake dropped to his knees, tears streaming down his face as he wrapped his arms around Max. "I'm so sorry, buddy," he choked out. "I'm so sorry." The scene was so powerful that it stopped everyone in their tracks. Passengers, shop owners, and pedestrians all paused to watch the reunion. Even Claire, who had been interviewing a local shopkeeper nearby, felt her breath catch in her throat. Max's wait was over. Chapter 6. A love that never fades. Jake's return was nothing short of a miracle. As he and Max walked away from the bus stop that day, the entire town felt a collective sense of relief and joy. Max's loyalty had paid off, and Jake's love for his dog was as strong as ever. Over the next few weeks, Jake shared his story with Claire. He explained how he had fallen on hard times and had to leave town suddenly, hoping to return for Max once he got back on his feet. But life had other plans, and it took him much longer than he expected. "I thought about Max every single day," Jake said, his voice trembling. "I never stopped loving him. I just didn't know if he'd still be waiting." But Max had waited. Through rain, snow, and scorching sun, he had stayed loyal, his love unwavering. The community continued to support Jake and Max, helping them get settled into a new apartment and providing everything they needed to start fresh. Max's story became a legend in the town, a reminder of the power of love, loyalty, and second chances. If this story touched your heart, take a moment to appreciate the love of the dogs in your life. Whether they're by your side or waiting at the Rainbow Bridge, their loyalty is a gift we should never take for granted. Share this video with someone who believes in the power of a dog's love. And if you're thinking about adding a furry friend to your family, consider adoption. There are countless dogs like Max out there, waiting for their chance to change someone's life. Subscribe to True Love Dogs for more stories that celebrate the incredible bond between humans and their four-legged heroes. Together, let's make the world a better place, one paw at a time.